Welcome to the Say Hello to Your Therapist podcast. I'm Dr. Bethany Valenti. Join me as we say hello to Keely Rodriguez, a licensed professional counselor supervisor who specializes in a host of presenting concerns and treatments, including working with middle-aged and perimenopausal women on trauma, anxiety, and grief. She is also a clinician who provides both EMDR and Brainspotting. We met with the plan to discuss her work with Midlife Women, but as you will hear, she mentioned her Brainspotting and EMDR work, and I asked if we could take a detour on that topic first. So in the first part of discussing her clinical work, we explore Brainspotting and how it differs from EMDR, and how and when she uses them with her clients. In the second half of our conversation, we make our way back to working with midlife women, perimenopause, trauma, and parenthood. A quick note that the views that we express in this episode are our own and not a substitute for medical or mental health advice that you receive from a professional with whom you have a relationship. Don't forget to check out the show notes to learn more about Keely and the things we talked about. I hope you enjoy. Hi, Keely. Welcome.
Thank you.
Can you tell me a little bit about what led you to be a therapist?
So I am a second career therapist. Yay. So I took that little test that everybody seems to take in junior year in high school or something like that. And the two results were I could either be an actress or I could be a therapist, which I always thought was really weird.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, so what do I do with that? So I kind of put that in my back pocket.
Ultimate question.
Yeah, exactly. And talk about two very different positions to get. So I had a really great experience with a therapist in high school. I struggled with my own mental health journey, and as almost every 16-year-old does. And I had this amazing woman. And as we were kind of wrapping up therapy, she said, have you ever thought about being a therapist? So it was like that little seed, and then this career assessment seed. And then I went and did all sorts of different careers in politics and
really, I know you said pharmaceutical sales.
Pharmaceutical sales, worked for an advertising agency. I did a lot of different stuff, but I always had like the two things. Number one, I could be good at this. And number two, there was this woman who really helped me. And so I got kind of in the space of like, I had been there, done that in so many different ways. And at 40, I went in and told my manager that I wanted to go back to graduate school and give up my 6-figure salary to do that. And he immediately sent me the referrals for all the mental health services job through
He
HR.
says, I feel like you need to think this through. Are you doing okay?
Are you sure? And I was like, no, I think I'm sure. Wow. And so I went back to graduate school, and I'm so grateful I did. Like, I did good things, but what I did before 40 and what I've done after 40 has been life-changing for me.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that so much. So it was 40 when you made that switch. Okay. And so now we are how far into it?
350. Yes. So we're in it a while, and that has been changing too, of course, and like who I connect with, where I am in my life, and stuff like that. So it's been a really, really cool journey, and I am so proud of the woman at 40 who said, I just got to take a chance and do something different.
Absolutely. This isn't working for him anymore. It's been fun. And I'm done with it. I got what I needed out of it.
Absolutely.
Amazing. And so I'm just trying to think, you had multiple careers, it sounds like, doing all sorts of stuff, working in advertising or pharmaceutical sales and everything. And it feels like very people adjacent.
So I found like that I could connect to people now that I reflect back in what I was doing a lot in pharmaceutical sales is I was doing a lot of like, a little counseling on the side. But I always felt like I could connect to people in a way that was different, that I could really help validate their experiences. I was doing all the therapeutic techniques. I just didn't know that there was a clinical name for it.
Right. There's a word for it out there.
This is legitimate. Yeah.
Active listening, some stuff like that, maybe.
Yes, absolutely.
Do you think, I think I am just really struck by how your therapist saw it in you at 16.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I think she saw that idea of being able to connect with other people, to go deeper, to ask the questions, to have self-awareness of like, where does my stuff show up? Where is that other people show up? And so, yeah, I that was a huge turning point for me to have somebody validate that there's a talent. Sometimes, often when we have a talent, we just do it naturally. We assume everybody else can do it naturally. And that was my assumption as well. And until she said, hey, wait a minute, not everybody sees the world the way you do. This is a gift. That helped me a whole bunch. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. And were you drawn to work with a 16-year-old? Because that's not where you're at now. So where did you start out?
No, I loved working with teenagers initially, and I still, will occasionally work with someone who's a little bit younger and stuff. But honestly, I felt like there were so many people that were much better at it than me. Especially being a 40-year-old woman at the time. And it felt kind of like I came off giving sort of mom vibes a little bit. And I felt that because also at 40, I have my own kids. And so, all my like mom junk was
Stuff's coming in.
Yeah. But I really felt like there was a place where women who were struggling with a whole bunch of like balancing things, everything kind of being hard, feeling really overwhelmed and stuff like that, that began to call to me a whole bunch. I'm a big believer in know what you do well, what you do to connect with people well, and you don't have to be everything for everybody. It's okay.
Yeah. Wow. Can you say it again? I just really
You don't need to be everything for everybody. And I think sometimes we get so excited coming out of graduate school. We feel like, oh, I want to do this and do this and do this. But if we can take some time to step back, lots of times our client that we connect to, it's like they find us. They start to rise to the surface. They start to reach out and stuff like that. They found me in a way where I was like, okay, cool. We're in a groove. This is a good thing. Yeah.
Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah. So I started to notice that the stuff that, I love working with women, by the way. Nothing wrong with men. I am married to one and raised
They're fine.
I read this really amazing book years ago that talked about how women, especially in impoverished communities, like in third world communities, that if they received something from an organization for their family, giving to women would give to the community as a whole. And that always stuck with me, right?
Yeah.
And so here's how they found me, is that I would work with one woman, and women often don't gatekeep, especially in the communities that I work in. So if I help one woman, she tells her sister or her cousin or her bestie or her tia or something like that.
Somebody's hearing about it. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, and over the years, it's been so funny because I'm like, oh, I met this client and this client introduced me to this client. It's the same exact thing with just working with women I would start to hear, oh, I have a client that I want you to meet. She's my girlfriend, or she's, somebody that I went to college with and stuff like that.
I love that. Yeah. And I heard you say, Tia, do you work with Hispanic or Latina?
I do. So in Brownsville, I live in a community where it's about 90% Hispanic population. I'm married to a Mexican man, so I have been a fly on the wall and been involved in the Hispanic community for a really long time. They have been so loving and grateful and kind to me. And so I get the honor of working with a lot of Hispanic women. So that's really cool. Although I speak Spanish every day, I would never say that I am bilingual. My Spanish is great to like order at a restaurant,
Right.
or, go on a vacation, but it is
Chat about some stuff. Yeah.
absolutely. But I definitely have a appreciation for the culture that not a lot of people get who have grown up in the family that I have. So I'm so grateful that they've allowed me to be in the community and allowed me to help them as well.
I used to live in New Mexico, so I just loved that part of the community, and now I'm in Ohio, and you just the percentages just are there in the same way,
Right, right.
and the food too.
Oh yes, it's amazing. It's amazing.
And the family culture, the focus on that is just so beautiful, and so I can really just see how in community, like you were saying, just how it would really ripple out in that way, especially.
Absolutely.
I'm also reminded, I've always said, so I grew up in Germany for a few years, and I did speak German. I was fluent in German for some time, but came back to the US when I was 13 or something like that. And so while I could pick it up again, I've gone back to Germany to visit and plan on going again. So I'm going to try and beef it up again. But if you try to put me in a therapy session,
oh my gosh,
to speak about deep emotions, and I think I would struggle so much.
So it's amazing because my Spanish is good enough that I understand the words that are used. We talk a lot. So we kind of have a lot of Spanglish sort of things. So they'll flip back and forth, Spanish and English a whole bunch, or they'll do a lovely, because I think emotion can be described in Spanish so much better than in English. Oh yeah, absolutely. So they may say something in Spanish and then they'll translate, and I'll be like, I gotcha. I'm trying you for sure. So it's kind of fun to have those dynamics and to understand that I appreciate it. I just don't want to miss anything. And that's the reason why I don't do it in a bilingual manner. There are people way smarter than me who can do that.
Just, more experienced, more immersive, maybe more native, feeling like they could say something and have it just immediately translate for you. That is so nice. Or not having to explain every single thing.
And I do stuff in terms of EMDR and Brainspotting. And a lot of times I like to let the client speak in the language that feels more comfortable to them. And because sometimes it's not about me needing to know what the translation is. And that pulls them, especially in Brainspotting, into more of a cognitive space. So if they need to be in Spanish, let's not change that.
Don't mess with a good thing.
Don't translate for me. So that's kind of cool too.
And how do you feel about spending a few minutes on Brainspotting and EMDR? Or are you okay with that? Okay.
I'm totally open to that.
Yeah. I know that you're certified in both, correct? Trained and certified in both. So amazing. I haven't had anyone speak to EMDR yet, but I'm certain I will at some point. But I would love, if you don't mind, to speak a little bit. I personally had never heard of Brainspotting until I went into private practice.
Yeah.
Because people were talking about, I was getting into fields where people were talking about, oh, here's what I offer, or here's what make sure you put this on your website, or different things like that. And I was like, Brainspotting, interesting. I don't know what that is. And so you're the first person who I met who kind of explained it. And so now I'll try and go off of what I remember from your explanation. And you can jump in there. So EMDR, eye movement desensitization therapy.
And reprocessing.
Reprocessing. I always forget what the R is. I always do.
Yeah.
Okay. And then that, we can go and hopefully go in more depth into this with somebody else in another episode. So we don't have to stick on that because I don't want you to explain everything. But like, I remember you saying, so EMDR, you're processing trauma by like getting stimulation on both sides of your brain while kind of re-experiencing whatever is the target concern of, and it can be trauma, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. It could be other things. Correct. Okay. Brainspotting was birthed from EMDR.
EMDR. So the Dr. David Grant, who was the inventor of Brainspotting, was a trainer to teach EMDR. So he's very well versed in EMDR. And he just discovered how to start to do EMDR a little bit differently. So rather than doing the eye movement quicker, he slowed down the process a little bit more. And then he worked with one particular client who he found that when he slowed down enough, he would notice her eye reflexes, and there was a particular spot where her eyes would kind of jump a little bit, have like a reflex in a particular spot. So rather than having her do bilateral, he just had her focus on that one spot, allowing her brain to just kind of see what comes up in that particular spot. And it really allowed her to go deeper about a particular situation and what was linked to what they were working on at the time. It seems like it was that simple. She was a professional ice skater. She was working on a particular jump, and she just had a sticking point where she could not get past it. When they found the brain spot to help her process, apparently she went into a lot of her own family trauma and how ice skating had impacted her family, parents' relationship, and stuff like that. So although it was about being stuck doing this performance particular action, it was linked to all of this other stuff. So she was able to process it deeply. And I believe that she called Dr. Grant afterwards within a couple of days, if not right away, and told him, hey, after this processing, something happened. I felt so much different, and I was able to do the jump over and over again. Like there's no problem.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
that'll get your attention real fast.
Yeah. And I mean, he's amazing. He is still training people and still practicing and stuff like that. So great that they'll be taught by him. But that was the beginning of it. And he has written several books about it like that. So let me tell you the explanation behind getting EMDR certified and Brainspotting certified, because
would love that.
Really helpful.
Yes, please.
So I worked in residential treatment for internship, and then postgraduate school work was in residential treatment for
both.
Men and women. And really, really intense treatment situation. This was not their first rodeo. On average, it was their fifth to seventh time that they had been in treatment.
Okay.
And lots of dual diagnosis. So I noticed, just being observant, is that a lot of times people, and not unusual to any of us as clinicians, but a lot of times people were really traumatized by things that had happened in their past that they had struggled with. And the substance use was just a way to like survive, right? To numb what was going on in their past and all
Absolutely.
of that stuff.
Yeah.
But the struggle was, as you take people off of these substances, it got really, really wacky and really tough, because all of this trauma that had been suppressed, all of a sudden it was coming up to the surface.
Yeah.
And so that I was like, oh my gosh, we were doing so much cognitive behavioral therapy and nothing was moving. And it was trauma informed cognitive behavioral therapy.
Okay.
So that's when I started looking for EMDR. Sort of, I was like, golly, there's got to be a better way, or at least a different way to support this. So learned everything I could about EMDR, really had some great experiences and stuff like that, took that into private practice. But the challenge sometimes, this is my own personal opinion.
Right. That's your opinion. We're not going for any professional endorsements or any ads here.
But the challenge with the EMDR I found is if somebody has complex or layered trauma, they've got stuff from childhood, family of origin stuff, and then life happens and they've got layers and layers of that. It kind of felt like a game of whack-a-mole with the EMDR. It would be like one thing pops up, we would work on that, then another thing would pop up and we would work on that. And it was like frustrating to the client. I was getting like, what can I do here? And then I learned about brain spotting, where brain spotting, you don't have to go from one traumatic memory to the next. You can process a relationship. So maybe like a dysfunctional relationship with mom, and this person is in their late 30s or early 40s. If we tried to process everything that had happened, I quite frankly don't have enough time on this earth to do that. But if we processed it as an umbrella with brain spotting, things started to shift in magnificent ways.
Wow.
And that was really cool.
That's amazing. Like, and so it really sounds like EMDR could help with some people that you were working with to a point.
Yeah.
But if it went beyond into a certain level of complexity, for instance, it just wasn't getting all of it. It was kind of like, I'm almost like, the analogy I'm coming up with is when you're trying to like get a tumor out, or and if you don't get it all, that's not good. And so for some people, like maybe EMDR can get the whole thing. And then for some people, brain spotting, we need the whole umbrella. We need to get in there and get it all out.
No doubt. I have this really cool painting in my office that has a bunch of spray paint hearts on it. So the way I like to think about it is we want to start to put a white coat of paint on top of all the hearts.
Okay.
And that's brain spotting. So we're just going to paint for a little bit, and then we're going to stand back and see what's still coming through. We might need another coat of paint. Or we might go, you know what, that pink heart right there, we need to give a little love to that. And maybe that's an EMDR target. So rather than being in a box of like, I either do this or this, I'm like, I do whatever we need to do to make this client feel better. And
you've used both. Like you really like blend it together then.
100%.
You're selling me on this, because I was wondering. I was like, I'm going to get trained at EMDR, but she's kind of selling me on brain spotting here for a minute, at least for some people. But if I could use both, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, so I won't do them at the same time. I collaborate with my clients and say, okay, what do you think? It sounds like this one memory is really still standing out. Or, with brain spotting where it's like, it doesn't really mean, it doesn't feel as heavy emotionally or physically. I don't think we need to do the EMDR. So I like to do brain spotting first.
Yeah.
It's a one event thing. Like
a little more cut and dry.
I was
had a car accident.
Yep. Or I was, there was sexual assault.
Right.
A one-time event.
Yeah.
I'll go there with EMDR. If not, we'll go brain spotting, and then we'll reevaluate and see where we go.
Yeah. Do you ever find that after that initial coat of brain spotting that's kind of enough, that they're like, I actually feel so much more able to function or cope now? that I can move into either more traditional talk therapy or feel a little more resolved for a while? Or do you find that usually something's either popping up or that we need another coat?
I definitely see that when I say, and let me make sure I clarify, when I say coat, it might be 8 sessions.
Yeah, that's not a one-time thing. Yep.
Right.
Let's be clear about what a coat entails. A coat across the image is 8 sessions. We are layering this. Yes.
We are layering this down.
Yes. Going in strokes, broad strokes over 8 sessions.
But do I think that there are some times where people do enough of that they don't feel like they need that laser focus that EMDR provides? Absolutely.
Okay.
100%. So I just like the flexibility, the fluidity of it and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's so nice. I'll just ask one more question about it.
Sure.
Well, I guess one, but two-parter. It's either one question or two questions, however you want to phrase it. I guess the first part would just sort of be, how do you like to explain it to your clients of like selling it, of like what it's going to look like? And then maybe just sort of talking about what it would look like when you come into the room, just, for someone who might be listening to this and be like, so what does that even mean?
Yeah. So you don't do either one of these things like initially, right?
Right. Not at the gate. It's not, hello,
No.
use this light thing or listen to this music. Hold these sensors. Yes.
You gotta trust me first. Some of that I think is really important and by the way, I don't use anything that I haven't done on myself.
Oh, love that. Yeah. You're like, wait.
Oh, do it on myself. I have to do a therapist.
You've had a professional do it on yourself. You haven't just sat there with and been like, this is fine. My clients will be fine.
No problem.
Yeah. You've done the work, is what you're saying.
Always my first guinea pig.
Yes.
Right? And multiple times because I have spent as much time on the couch as I have in the therapist seat. I think that that's incredibly important. So I always tell clients that, just level set that for sure. So I can tell you from a client perspective how I approached it and how I felt as well as a clinician.
Thank you.
So with EMDR, there's several sessions that you have just to kind of set things up so you have like a protocol that feels safe, you know what to expect and stuff like that. So at a minimum, you're going to do an initial intake with any therapist just so that they get to know you. You'll do what we call a treatment plan. And then we start to do some really good grounding techniques to use in EMDR. So you're probably not going to do EMDR for at least 4, maybe even 5 sessions so that you just feel really comfortable. I want clients to select the targets that they want to work on and then put them in order. We want to have consistent routine, no changes, and no like, oh, we're going to throw this thing into the mix.
No shakeups. If something changes, we want to talk about it well ahead of time or work through it. Yeah,
absolutely. So the way I talk about it in terms of clients is I carry around a big pink plastic brain that has 2 halves to it. And I explain how there are 3 different parts of our brain. And Dan Siegel, I don't know if you're familiar with the hand model of the brain. Yes. So Dr. Dan Siegel had a hand model of the brain. So I don't have my big pink brain, so I'll show it to you. So here's kind of the brain stem, right? Okay. So just respiration, movement, balance, flexibility, all those sorts of things.
For those of our listeners, she is holding a fist up with her fingers over her thumb and gesturing to her wrist, and that kind of, representing that brain stem, right? We're like basic, like we need that to live, like that regulates all of our body system, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Keep going.
The second portion of the brain is the midbrain area, right?
She has opened her hand and showed her thumb. Sorry, I feel like our audio people need this. Yep. Yeah. So she's basically, if you know, what is that, sign language? Is that a B in sign language or whatever? You put the thumb over your, so if you picture that,
So that's more what we call the limbic system, the midbrain area. Lots of emotions are stored here, and often traumatic memories kind of
Memory.
stuck in this place, right?
Yeah. The hippocampus is in there, right?
Yeah,
After that memory,
absolutely.
fear, and all that stuff is in
The
there. Yeah.
amygdala, so our
Yep.
amygdala is the
Amygdala.
alarm system in our
Yes.
brain and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And then you wrap those fingers around, and this is our neocortex, so all the bumpy parts of our brain.
Yep.
And
All the
stuff
pretty
like that.
parts that we see. The pretty much the visual part of the brain when you see it on top.
Lots of logic and reasoning are as well. And then if you look at my first finger here, more like prefrontal cortex, executive functioning, all of that sort of good stuff. If anybody has teenagers, that is like
It's still working. It's still cooking.
It's still cooking. And I'm really seeing these days 27 to 30, it starts to really come on.
And bless you. It's like
and
being back in the toddler phase is what I've heard.
I'm right there with you, but it does come online. So no hope is lost.
It's on its way. Yes.
It's on its way. So we're walking around with a fully intact brain during the day. No problem. So then let's say something triggers us. Triggering us can be sight, smell, it can be a sound on the radio, it can be a body sensation, so many different things.
Yes.
But as we get triggered, our neocortex, where logic and reasoning happen, go offline.
It's totally out the window. Like, because it goes straight to those, it goes deep in there.
So that's where we flip into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Depending on how we have managed in the past and everything like that. And that's how our nervous system can get hijacked big time.
That's like you're keeping yourself safe, like your instinct.
Yeah. Then when we calm down, right, it comes back online. Okay.
You get to judge yourself for all the things that you did with the hindsight of like, oh, I know that just because that song came on, that's not that my father is coming after me again or whatever it is, you know.
So part of that, and I wish that this neocortex would talk more to this limbic system. And there is some really good research that says that as you do EMDR and brain spotting, that there becomes a really good pathway between, you can establish a pathway.
Oh, yes. Okay. So they can talk better. They can
talk better. But I love to use the example, and this is what I use with clients. If you've ever gotten called in from your supervisor or some sort of boss, and instead of being able to defend yourself, you find yourself either arguing back really aggressively or freezing. That's a lot what women do sometimes. Or just really shutting down. And it can feel very upsetting because you just stand there and can't defend yourself. Then because you're in this space, then on your way home, driving home, and all of a sudden you're like, why did I not say this, and this? Because you couldn't access logic and reasoning at that point. So what we try to do in the EMDR is we try to get some of the memories, the traumatic memories that are kind of hanging out here, like a bunch
in that core, like emotional, survival state.
Yeah, and we try to help process them enough so you don't feel so hijacked here, so you can remain more in an intact state where logic and reasoning is hanging out there. Or you do have the flip.
Some more flexibility to manage it. Yep. You're able to come back online a little better and be like, oh yeah, so like you might even still be in the room still when you can respond to your boss or whatever.
Right.
Or and maybe still at work and be like, hey, let me just come back a second, or let me take care of myself or whatever. You can then feel like you are more in control or more resourceful or whatever that is.
Absolutely. So that's the reason why if you notice something just gets you so active and so triggered, And sometimes we can't link it back to, oh, okay, this is why I got triggered. Maybe, but you just notice that that's happening in your body so consistently that that's a place where we get curious and look at maybe there's some deeper work that I need to do around this particular relationship or this traumatic memory that may have happened. And so sometimes just explaining all of that really validates a client's experience, because you're right. There can be a lot of guilt and shame about why do I flip out, or why do I freeze during
Yeah.
things?
Well, you're even talking about moms being sort of that pillar of the community, like, or women being the pillar of the community. So that's moms, that's partners, that's all of that. And so it could ripple effect. I'm just picturing a mother be like, why did I just yell at my kid? You know?
All the time. Absolutely. Or
I've
why
never done
do I
that.
continue snapping at my partner?
Yes.
It's just really normal. And like, we yell at our kids or snap at our partners because life is hard and women are balancing a million different things. Sometimes if we dig a little bit deeper and get curious about it, we realize there might be something else to this. So leaning in with curiosity rather than like shame and guilt, I think it is what you have to have in doing this work. And I get to see really cool and witness really cool miracles that happen.
I know. We just have the best job. I feel like we get to see such amazing stuff. It's hard, but we really love it at the same time. It's such an honor. Do you want to go back to something that you said earlier about maybe like what it looks like in the room, and then we can transition back to the women and the midlife stuff that we want to talk about.
Of course. So the way that it looks in the room is that we already have a determined thing that we want to work on, right? So we kind of have our game plan. So I'll do like a 5-minute, hey, let's just check in, see how we're doing right now. And then I'll help unless there's something that comes up. And then if there's something that comes up, all good plans we set aside to address the thing in the room. But if there's not, then I'll say, hey, last time we talked about, here's what we wanted to work on today. Is that still something that you're interested in? And then we bring that up. I might ask, like, what do you think when you think about these things? Is there on a scale of 10 to 0, 10 being the worst and 0 being neutral, not good nor bad? Where is it on the scale? Where do you feel it when you think about it in your body? Are there any emotions? Because there can be lots of different emotions connected to this. And with EMDR, we also look for a negative belief. Sometimes it's an I am statement or I am not statement. And I'll have clients have like little cheat sheets that will get the feelings wheel out. If they can't kind of figure it out, we'll do the prep work. Sometimes that prep work is done already. And so with EMDR, I particularly prefer to use little pulsers, which are like the little vibrator that you get when you're waiting for your table at.
Yes.
I have clients use those. They vibrate back and forth in their hands. And so the client can keep their eyes open or closed, whatever feels safe. We'll have them think about whatever we brought up. And for a few seconds, depending on the severity of the memory, I'll have them just play a movie in their mind or think about the thing. And that can go for 30 seconds, 45 seconds, minute, whatever the client needs. Then we'll stop and check in. Sometimes they want to talk about what they visualize, and sometimes they want to remain silent. And I think that's so important too, because sometimes telling the story again is so painful. And so then we're going to do that several times. It can be as many as 10 to 15 times during session. Always, if we need to take a break or stop, the client is in charge of saying when. And then towards the end of the session, I'm constantly saying, okay, we're moving towards this. We'll slow down enough that We'll turn the pulsars down. We'll have a predetermined container and safe place or some sort of resource. So we set the difficult stuff aside and then allow the client to end on a really safe visualization that feels good within their body. And then I just tell them that we can talk about whatever they feel like they need to talk about. And then I'll follow up with him afterwards within like 24 hours just to check in it and see how they're doing via text, and knowing that they're going to be processing again continuously for the next 24 to 48 hours. And then they come back into session, and some clients want to talk the next session, really talk about what they noticed. Some clients are like, wow, that was really great. Let's do it again. So we continue to do it, hoping that on that scale of pain, that it starts to slowly reduce down.
Yeah. And this process is so intricate and so just like rich with so much emotion and vulnerability. And I think it really speaks to why you don't just jump into it, for one, but also like as part of that you need to have that relationship. Relationship is just so key for any therapeutic experience. But if you're going to be stepping into a space that is this level vulnerable, then you want to know like that the person that is there with you is there with you.
100%.
And is going to hold you safe. Because I think we as therapists know how much re-traumatizing can happen in just like the retelling or the re-experiencing or anything. And sometimes that's even worse than the actual event. And we don't want to do that. We're not trying to be a part of that if we can. So if someone goes in there wanting to be like, all right, let's get going, I'm like ready to make a change. It's like, I know. Let's slow down. I'm not just going to tell you what to do right now. Anyway,
No. And I think that, and that's part of it too, is retelling of the story can be so painful. So I let clients know I'm good with silence.
Yeah.
If that's what feels safe to you, then let's do that. I know you're going to be processing. Now, most people who initially want to be silent eventually feel like I've earned their trust enough that they can share little glimpses with me, and that's okay too. Sometimes people don't want to share because they don't want to traumatize me. And I've worked with a lot of first responders and stuff like that. And so
many caretakers.
Yes. And I'm like, oh, I thank you so much. But I do my own work. I think if you do trauma therapy like this, it's essential that we do our own work so that I can hold space openly and I'm not bringing my own stuff into it or stuff in the session beforehand. Brainspotting, just to give you, it's the same sort of dynamic. We're just focusing on, like, I'll show you a little pointer that I extend.
Oh, that is a brain. It's a brain.
It's a brain. So I have this. I prefer, not all brain spotting therapists do this. I prefer to use bilateral music as well. It seems very grounding. So I'll have them listen to this. And then whether we're online or in person, we can find the brain spot and do all sorts of cool things there.
Yeah. And so you feel like you're able to do it online and in person?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. I have personally done brain spotting in person as well as online. So I know that it translates really, really well in both. I also do EMDR online, and I use a software that helps me do that.
Yeah, I've seen it. I didn't know that existed until I went to like a little training a couple of years ago, and it was just like, oh, look at this little thing.
Totally works. Absolutely. So
of course there's software now.
I mean, thank God for COVID, because it
they charged that forward. A lot of progress technology wise with what we could provide.
Absolutely.
We're not endorsing COVID, but there are certain things that it did, just like in all tragedy. We don't always want to be brought forward, but sometimes we got some good stuff out of it, like the work-life balance stuff, like how much we've been been able to figure out how to adapt to online, even just as therapists. So.
Absolutely. So yeah, out of every tragedy, there's generally some
Something.
little silver lining. Yeah.
Even if we don't love it, we don't have to like it. We didn't have, that's not how we had to want to get there.
Right.
And, we're not celebrating what happened. But yeah. So are you ready to talk about your midlife anxious women or just midlife anxiety?
Yes.
We were recently in a group chat where I think you were talking a little bit about midlife stuff, and some of us were like, do I count? Like, like what?
Yes.
So, and you shared very lovingly, here's the range, the age range that I think, damned if I'm not in that range. Can you share it for those of us who may or may not be sure where we fall in terms of midlife? Are we there? Or are we not there?
So I think midlife is really charged. It's very, very charged these days.
Right.
And so when I think about it, I think leaning into women who are struggling with perimenopause or menopausal symptoms can definitely feel like a really different way emotionally. We see so much about hormone replacement therapy and all of that sort of stuff. But there's also an emotional component to all of it for sure. So perimenopause roughly can come on as early as 35. Some women are not in that space and they're still having children and everything like that. And that is amazing. Those are the earliest signs that the experts are saying. And then on the other side, you can go through menopause at 50, 55, even closer to 60. So there's this different frame, but I find that women who are dealing with that are also really struggling with different things in terms of work-life balance, find ourselves really sandwiched between taking care of aging parents as well as raising kids or, kids that are launching into adulthood and stuff like that. And then a lot of the women that I talk to have professional careers. And it just seems like a time where you got physical stuff going on, and then you got everybody screaming your name. And it feels like a lot.
Yeah, I definitely felt that. Just coming from all directions, basically.
Yeah.
I recently started hearing the term perimenopause a lot more. When I was growing up, I feel like people just said, "Oh, did you go through menopause yet?" Like I remember my mom kind of talking about it with her friend of like, "Oh yeah, it's happening," or whatever, and couldn't even tell you what age that she was at per se. But I don't feel like I started to hear perimenopause, that specific term, until like within recent years. So I don't know if it's newer, but I did some Googling recently when we were hearing a little more about it. My understanding is that menopause really is the state that you're in almost like after perimenopause. Like perimenopause kind of describes the process of your body going through the change. And then if you are in menopause, your menses have stopped, basically. You're done at that point, correct? And so similar to like when we start our periods and our lives kind of get turned upside down, like it's starting to peter out or do whatever it is, the body's like, whatever. And that's where we get kind of more of what people used to joke about when we were growing up, or when I was growing up, maybe, about like, oh, she's just going through menopause or whatever. And that there is actually a distinct stage that is, and there's a word for it now called perimenopause. Am I crazy?
You are not crazy. That is absolutely the truth. And I think that there is, there hasn't been a whole bunch of research done. I recently heard an amazing podcast with Mary Claire Havert, Dr. Mary Claire Havert, who has written numerous books on menopause. It really talks about how there's so much research done for any type of health for women, and only like 10% of that research is actually allocated to women over 40.
Well, and that's once we actually get to the women, right? Because especially women stuff can be very understudied. Yeah,
absolutely.
I saw your hands. You're like, don't even get me started.
Right. Yeah. All right. It's a fraction of a fraction of a fraction.
So it just gets worse and more diluted.
And then to have the study that really talked about that shut all of the research down in terms of hormone replacement therapy.
Oh.
That was done in the 90s, it stopped the options for women. And so I think we're just now kind of re-embracing this whole thing in terms of what does perimenopause look like? What does menopause look like? And there is help. And there are people who specialize in this and stuff like that. My like big old soapbox that I like to jump on top of and wave my hands dramatically about is not only do we have all of this physical stuff going on, but ladies, this is a incredible time where there's so much overwhelm and stress emotionally. And lots of times, how trauma coordinates to this is lots of times when women are in a space where they're now, maybe they have a family, they're in a safer environment than they were growing up. Maybe they're just in a safer space with themselves and stuff like that. And things start to slow down just a tiny bit. You're not in the major crisis mommy mode of having littles. All of a sudden, trauma can come a knocking.
Yeah, it likes to just rise to the surface. It's like, remember me? Well, your body was heightened for totally other reasons. Now that you're starting to chill out, like, I just want to remind you, you've been through some stuff.
Yeah. And so I get a lot of clients who are like, where in the world does this thing come from? That was 20 years ago. I'm not having any problems. And then all of a sudden it's like, holy cow.
Yeah.
How did that?
Hormones like to be mean like that too. They're like, I'm not even bothered by something, and then suddenly it's my period, and this is when I get to process those feelings. Yes. I imagine that adds to it as well.
It does. Also, there's something about if you have children, it happens all the time. Lots of times women will see their child, and that will connect to something that they went through.
Literally. Can you tell I have little kids? Yeah. Yes. When there have been so many times where I see like my kids like having some of their meltdowns, and I'm like, this is touching me like emotionally in a place like I'm feeling a nerve struck. Like the amount of how much our children put a mirror up to ourselves is just fascinating.
100%. They are like, this is the work you shall do on yourself. So, and there are women who have had instances where they've really blamed themselves for things that have happened in their past. And all of a sudden they see their own daughter who's 12, 13, 14 or 15. And then they realize, oh my gosh, I've been blaming myself for years, but what would my daughter feel like if she was exposed to the same things?
Yeah.
So trauma comes up a lot. Attachment wounds come up a lot because when you go through menopause, broad strokes, right? Not everybody, but you go through menopause, you're like, how should I say this? Your give a crap meter really drops pretty low. So, I mean, my favorite influencer right now on Instagram is the We Don't Care Club.
I love her so much. She just came up on my thing, and I was like, if I find this funny, somebody who is struggling with menopause right now is gonna it's gonna go even deeper.
Absolutely.
So great. Yeah.
So, and the thing about that is you have that happening in your body and you're like, I'm so done. Like I am no longer here for it. But then there have been these patterns of people pleasing, perfectionism, proving your worth. And so that cognitive dissonance between those two spaces can really show up big time. So it's like, these are no longer working for me. I'm not here for it, but I don't know how to transition to a different way of living. And so that also shows up with women in that time and space too. that's really fun to like, okay, let's think about
Yeah.
how we want to handle it now.
Right. And I'm struck too, because I've worked a lot with the college age population, and I wonder if the time frame lines up of like how the level for we do not care and the energy that they have for something, why that could even like trickle down to like some of the kids that I'm seeing, because they're just like, sometimes the parents like, and maybe mothers are just like, yeah, and you're just like, really, like that's how you respond. But if they don't have the capacity, then that puts a whole other layer on it. You don't want to just be like, oh, she's probably just in perimenopause, but like maybe.
But maybe there can be lots of different layers to it for sure. And so I think all those things are really, really important to look at and to say, hey, getting some support around these things are really important during this time period. I have a blog on my website and I call it Therapy for Grown-Ass Women.
Yes, ma'am.
Because
Yep.
this is therapy before, like, no coping skills, no, like, okay, 5 big deep breaths.
Don't come at me with that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, most women.
These people have been like helping
Yes.
households do that. Yeah, I bet. Yeah. They're like, I teach this to people.
Right.
If I need it, fine, we'll get there, but do not start with that. Don't come at me with this.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's important to be with a therapist who's right there too with you. I totally understand the menopausal changes because I'm in it and I share that very openly with clients because I think it's validating to go, I can get it. I know what you're talking about. I also think it's really validating to understand what it's like to be juggling career and family and all of that sort of stuff as well. I have a big whiteboard in my office, and a lot of times we just take an expo marker and start like really reflecting on all of this stuff that is in their mental load and what they're handling, and then sit back and go, okay, let's talk about self-compassion. Because goodness sakes,
look at all this.
Yeah.
It's full.
That's often where I start with clients, because when you do it well and you keep on going, one foot in front of the other, lots of times it just feels like this is normal life. And it's not. And there are ways to adjust to that.
What else do you feel like comes up? Do you feel like anxiety is just like one piece of all this, or do you feel like anxiety tends to look a little different once you're in this midlife?
I have to say, anxiety looks really different. So does depression. So everybody that I talk to, down to a T, says I'm anxious. And that's generally what people come in for is, I'm struggling with anxiety. But it always makes you laugh because I'll have clients who say, I am struggling with anxiety, but Keely, I do not have time for a nervous breakdown.
I don't have time for this.
I don't have time to get nice pedicure or to get my roots done. I do not have time for a nervous breakdown. So it makes me giggle because I get it. And there can be healing without a nervous breakdown. That's what we're trying to get past, right? So part of it is like, okay, what's on the whiteboard? What's the anxiety? What are the symptoms? What are you noticing? Heart palpitations, difficulty sleeping? Is that menopause or is that anxiety? So I love to kind of go through and try to discover what is biological, what is emotional, and stuff like that. Then trying to figure out, okay, we're going to play like a Tetris game together. So it might start out with like, where can we find wiggle room to give you a little bit more space? And that's not a spa day or, a women's retreat, which I love both, but sometimes that's just we've got to find some daily stuff. So that's where the anxiety comes up. And then obviously, if we're working with people pleasing or perfectionism or anything like that, that's where we go kind of down to the attachment wound stuff.
Get all up in that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
The biological piece, do you find that, because I had an interaction with a client for a while, and there was a referral where someone was really in the thick of it, but did not feel comfortable with the medications.
Sure.
So some of what we were sitting with was like, this is kind of part of the process. And what if there's something out there that can help you feel better? Like, how do you navigate that? Is there a party that's like, it just sort of like, just try and take care of you as best we can? If you don't want to like take the meds, are you referring people? What is your process with the biological stuff with that?
Yeah. I think this is really important. This is where I'm really passionate. And even like bringing in some of my pharmaceutical knowledge, that's so I like to level set expectation.
Okay.
I like to have a conversation during intake. Are you open to medication? If we
Yeah.
feel that that's important, are you not? Either way, there's no shame in that, and we honor what your needs are. But I am very open about if we get to a point where I do feel like medication is important in terms of an evaluation. I'll be real honest about that as well. I refer to a female psychiatrist. Nothing against the guys, but the psychiatrist that I refer to, she really takes the time to listen. She's also a woman who's a wife and a mother herself, so she really understands all the obligations. I love working with OBGYNs and nurse practitioners and PAs. So if the client feels comfortable, I get so much information that could be valuable to the practitioners. If we can do a release of information so that I can send them a treatment summary so they may be able to get more information about how things are affecting the client, I think that's awesome. That's that 360 kind of coordinated care. So I try to have good resources for that. If it's hormone kind of stuff going on, whether it's psychiatry and doing an evaluation. And then I tell the client, look, just because you get an evaluation or an opinion from a physician or a practitioner doesn't mean you have to take the medication, right? It's just to know that there are options out there. But I am also very, very straightforward about things that can impact or help when you're struggling with emotion. And things like finding good quality sleep. And if that needs to be medically supported or supplementally supported, then those are things to ask your practitioner. Trying to move your body. Right now, we need about 6 hours of sleep, not to dip into kind of a anxious, irritable, or depressive state. And lots of times with women going a million miles an hour, 6 hours is really hard to cobble together.
Some biologically are having a hard time getting that, like sleeping too, like their body's not letting them.
Right. So that's why it's important to lean into that. If 6 hours is not obtainable right now. Also moving your body. So we need, there's really nice research that says we need about 6,000 steps a day to be able to stay above the line on things like anxiety, irritability, and depression. So that's another thing. And bringing in the pharmaceutical side of things, we have more neurotransmitter receptor sites in our stomach than in our brain. So, so a lot of people say you are what you eat. I say actually you feel what you eat. So if we could have more whole, nutritious foods, I'm not shaming anybody. I like Chick-fil-A sandwich.
Not here to shame, but where can we add in some stuff that's gonna,
And so I also refer out in terms of somebody who's a registered dietitian who might support that as well. So I want clients to know that even if you don't take medication, there are things that we really need to get on board, maybe baby step by baby step, that could make a huge difference. or that could impact things significantly in the opposite way. I see so much online about women and drinking wine and stuff like that. If you are depressed, that's like throwing gasoline on a fire, baby. It's not going to make things better at all.
Yeah.
It often makes things worse. So
Yeah.
really noticing those things a lot as well.
I think that there's a lot of culture around wine as kind of therapy, or wine is like, oh, I've had a hard day, I deserve this, or anything like that. It's just
There's really strong research that drinking wine or alcohol can severely impact our sleep patterns as well. Our sleep patterns aren't great, and you're picking up the goldfish that are in the car, or trying to wolf down a protein bar in between meals or something like that. Then our food is off, and then when our sleep and our food are off, then we don't want to move our body. We just want to get in our PJs and binge on some Netflix.
Yeah, it all adds up. And it's not like you have to do things perfectly. We don't need to be, we're not looking for Fitspo. We're not looking to be the wellness influence or anything. It really comes down to some of the most basic stuff. Move some, get good sleep, try and eat balanced when you can.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, even like, I like to think of it like a grade in high school, right? Even 70 is passing, right?
Whoa.
So it's not perfect.
Yes.
70%.
Yeah. And I think there's even research that shows that like we only have that much control over it too. Like genetics is going to take over. Like I think genetics is like 70% in terms of like body shape or like different types of stuff like that. For instance, we get told all sorts of things, but ultimately, like you said, we don't need to be 100%. And when you get these perfectionistic like women who are doing everything, then they're like, what do you mean?
So I think some of this is super empowering. And this is a lot of what I talk to clients about in those first initial sessions. As sometimes it feels like things are out of control. My anxiety is out of control. And I'm like, okay, we got stuff to be able to control. Like literally after your session today, you could probably do one thing that may make you feel a little bit better. And I think that's really important, because sometimes the noise is so loud, it's hard to remember. You just got something, one thing that you can do that could begin to start to make you feel a little less anxious.
Literally. There's so much to think about. And do you often work with anyone who's not getting enough to eat, for instance? Are we at that kind of level sometimes of we need to go back to the basics of you need enough of all these things, you need enough sleep, you need just enough movement. Let's dial back the exercises that are, 2 hours long because you feel like that's where the priority needs to be.
Absolutely. And we talk a lot about, that need for control. And sometimes it feels better to lean into some of that stuff as a way to feel like you do have some control in life.
For real.
And I get it totally.
Yeah.
But kind of playing with what's showing up, what's not working for you, what's your kryptonite, what's depleting you. And sometimes women who come in, I'm the first person who's asked them any of these questions. Sometimes they're tears because they just haven't had somebody ask things like, how do you have fun? What brings you joy? Stuff.
What do you like to do?
Because they're so very used to meeting the needs of other people. And it's like, look, I know this will work for everybody else, but let me ask you the question again. Do you like this?
Is it actually fun? Are you filling your cup? It might be okay that you do a little bit of, you check the boxes of what needs to get done, and then can we give ourselves permission to just binge watch whatever it is that you like? I even talked to a client recently who was like, I guess I have a lot of hobbies, but they're just not the kind that I always like to talk about. I've been video gaming a lot, and I've been talking with people while I do it, and I've been watching some movies and some shows. Like, you're allowed to like those things,
Of course.
Is there anything that you would want to share about kind of your midlife work that we haven't gotten to, that I haven't thought to ask, for instance, or that you just really like to, you like to highlight?
So it's not a crisis.
Mm.
It's not a crisis.
The midlife crisis, is that what you're?
Yeah. In transition, just like sometimes we need support during transitions.
Yeah.
And that's what we talked about earlier about working with teens. That can be a transition that feels really kind of funky, and sometimes they need support, but it's not a crisis. It's just a new becoming. And look, when you go fast and furious, as most moms do, then when things start to slow down a little bit, it can be really unsettling, especially if you have adult kids that you're launching into that kind of adulthood space, whether they're going to college or are finding their own profession and stuff like that. And so sometimes women come in thinking, oh my gosh, I'm just a mess. This is a crisis, but it's not. And there can be so many cool things in getting to know yourself in a different way that you still have so much value and wisdom and so much life left to live.
It's not forever, too. Like
It's not forever. And if you do some really cool work, you can create a next chapter that is freaking amazing. But sometimes we just need a little support in the transition. And that's okay too.
Yeah. Love that. I love that. Are you up for our wrap-up questions?
Of course.
Okay. So the first one, I just feel like relevant wise, I just really would love to know what is your personal, we do not care as you've gone through.
Oh my gosh, I can give you the best example ever. So yesterday, my husband and I drove 5 hours home after seeing our daughter from college. And I had not taken a shower and I had a baseball cap on and no makeup. I had to be on a conference call and stuff like that. So I got in, introduced myself, put myself on pause, double checked to make sure that I wasn't doing anything naked or anything like that. Put my hair in rollers because that's what you do when you're a Southern girl and you haven't washed your hair in 3 days. So put my hair up in rollers. And then I got called on to be on video.
No
makeup, hair in rollers, all the things. And I was like, boop, I do not care. Hello.
I do not care. Hello.
I don't care. And
Here we are. I showed up.
Totally laughed about it. And you have to understand, if I showed this clip to any client that I had, they would completely laugh and go, yep, that's Keely.
Yeah.
That is who I am. I'm just going to show up authentically. And I think I'm not going to show up if I can't show up authentically.
Yeah.
And if that looks a little messy, well, by God, here I am.
Yeah. You showed up.
I showed up. Yeah. And I had very valuable things to say with all of my hair and rollers. It
does not change the contributions that you made by any means. It does not. And so I know we talked about Texas. Is that where you're primarily licensed or are you licensed elsewhere?
Yeah, I'm licensed in Texas. Texas is so big that it'll keep me busy. And
got the whole state. You're good.
Yeah.
And do you have any openings right now?
I do. I do have the openings right now.
And do you take insurance?
I don't take insurance. I'm learning to prioritize my own energy level and stuff like that. Insurance can kind of be a bear in that way. And I'm giving that gift to myself these days. And I know that comes from a place of being privileged to do that. I did insurance for an extended period of time, and I'm going to take care of me so therefore can take care of my clients.
You're in your non-insurance era so that you can give it back. Yeah. Take that energy and put it elsewhere. And so your current fee is?
$150.
$150.
So that's a really good average rate. And I do $200 for the initial intake because we're doing the $150 after that.
Okay. And we've already said you're both online and in person, correct?
I'm online and in person. If you have health savings accounts, a lot of companies do that. That's a lot of times how clients use those benefits to pay for private pay sessions. I use it myself with my family as well. And so that's also a really good way to help support that.
Cool. Cool. And what do you nerd out about? What do you tend to get like really into?
Ooh, I am a wannabe like computer nerd a
Really?
little bit. I
Ah.
don't know why. I love playing with websites. I created my own. I love everything learning about AI, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. I really find that stuff super interesting.
That's amazing. Okay, cool. Super cool. This is why I ask these. I just love what people say. Do you have any pets?
I do. I have 3 dogs. I have a Labradoodle, a Aussie Doodle, and a very testy Cavalier King Charles Spaniel who's like 14 years old and, really ornery.
Doing his thing. What is something that you find comforting?
The comforting thing that I love is watching people's resilience and seeing where they get to, because this is about holding space for people and letting them have space to process things. So on days when I think like the whole world's going to hell in a handbasket, and there's a lot of those days, I remember that there is so much hope and I get to witness it. And that's pretty dang cool.
And are you coffee or tea?
I am straight up coffee with cream. I try to only do 2 a day, but they are religiously set at certain times of the day.
They're there for a reason.
For a reason. One of the things I still and probably will always do is I insist on doing sessions after 5:00. It's really important to me because, and I also do intensives with women, because one of the things that's really important with this type of woman that I see is their schedules don't look like the typical therapy.
Yeah.
So I really try to meet people where they're at and what their needs are. So I need a coffee at about 4 to 4:30, or mama's not getting through
Not
till
gonna do
7:30
it.
at night.
Not gonna make it. Absolutely. And what's your least favorite misconception about the work that we do?
That is easy. That you're just listening to people. That we aren't vicariously traumatized. Yeah. I think it's that anybody can do it. The bravest people that I know do trauma work. Absolutely. And it's not easy. It's not for the faint of heart. And I wouldn't change one moment of the time that I've had sitting in the therapist chair.
Yeah, I think we're just gonna end on that.
I think that's good.
Yeah. Keely, where can people find you?
So my website is Keely Rodriguez Therapy.com, and my first name is spelled Keely. And then on Instagram, I'm at Keely Rodriguez Therapist. You can find me either way there. And I do a free 30-minute consultation over Zoom with potential clients, so we can really check and see what's bringing you into therapy, if I have the right specialization to help. And if I don't, I'll make sure that we find some good resources for you to make sure that you get the support that you need. So yeah, that's how I help.
Awesome. Thanks so much. And maybe we get to see more of you on your own podcast, I think.
Yes. In the works, stay tuned. I do a lot of stuff on YouTube, so that's also will be on the website as well.
Okay. So look there.
Yeah, love to teach and talk like I did today in bite-sized pieces for women who need a little bit of support.
Yeah. Keely Rodriguez, I love that. Thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, I'm so grateful. Thank you, Bethany.